This soldier, my soldier, Virgil John Tangborn, is from a small town called Nary in Minnesota. He was an avid reader and used to get a case full of books every week sent to his home, or he'd pick them up from the local library. He had an infatuation with classical music, and every Saturday afternoon used to crowd around the radio and listen. Without professional music lessons, he played in the Nary band for a decade. Like most boys, he knew when the war started that his getting involved was inevitable. He wrote as early as 3 years before ever joining that he saw his future as black and indecisive. But even besides talking about his fears, he talked about his dreams and his aspirations. Virgil, with his love for the arts, even though he lived in a small house without electricity for a long time, wanted to get into film. Whether it was acting or directing, he doubted his talent, true to Minnesota modesty, but he wanted to go there. He was one of few people from this small town that ever saw himself going places. And I believe that would he have come home alive, that he would have changed the world, much like he's changed my world. After being drafted, he was sent to Camp Berkeley near Abilene, Texas for training, where he became part of the 90th Infantry Division, often symbolized by TO. It used to stand for Texas and Oklahoma, but is now referred to as the Tough Hombres. He auditioned for and was selected to be a French horn player in the band. The band sent to England in April of 1944, just before the Normandy invasion. They expected to be there to play music and to make people happy, which is what I believe all Virgil ever wanted to do, was to make people happy. However, in sight of all of the tragedy and chaos going on, it was realized that they were going to need more men. And staying true to that desire to want to help people, Virgil had himself medically trained. On June 14th, an ammunition truck was hit by a shell. The driver inside, an Allied force, himself injured and in need of help. Virgil ran towards him, and in his attempt to assist this man, himself was killed. It's not known exactly where Virgil died, but it was on a road very close to where we stood at Lafayette. I know I stood there, and as I looked across what looked like open fields, I could only imagine the way it must have been that day, and how scared he must have been. And all I can believe is honestly that Virgil was a hero for what he did. He's not the type of hero to carry a gun. He wasn't the one to show up in tights and a cape and save the day. He was the one who quietly, like everyone else, put his hands in and tried to help in the best way possible. Virgil gave the ultimate sacrifice so that 3,068 miles away from where we are today, the people he loved could be safe. I know most of you didn't get a chance to know your soldier as well as I did, but I got the chance to even meet part of Virgil's family, and I really got the opportunity to meet him as a friend. And so, rather than just stand here and talk to you all about how amazing he was, I would like to close with an open letter to Virgil. Dear Virgil, I should probably start off by introducing myself. My name is Mattilan. I'm 17 years old, from a lovely little place called Minnesota. I know we've never met before, but I'd like to think that you and I would have been friends. We both played instruments and loved to read. However, I'm not here today, Virgil, to try to ask you to sit by me at the lunch table somewhere beyond the white pearly gates. I came here to tell you how much I appreciate all that you have done. You see, Virgil, when I first began to look into this war, all it seemed to be was a bunch of medals, titles, and numbers. It seemed that all there was to it was a bunch of statistics. But when I read your story, suddenly everything changed. When I read your story, everything for once started to become real. The day I talked to your brother, Wendell, I remember staring at the table, my palms sweating, worried that I would say the wrong thing. But as your brother started to talk about you, I suddenly felt as though I was hearing stories about an old friend. For days after those conversations, I had nightmares about all the silly things I could have done to save you if I had been given the opportunity. It makes me so sad to think that such an amazing person like you had to die. Standing at Lafayette, looking out among the fields you most likely trudged through a few days before you died, I tried to imagine what it must have been like. But all I can say is that I don't know how you did it. On March 27th, in your diary, you wrote that man should strive to enrich as much as possible life, to make himself an important tool in the general progress of mankind. In a lot of ways, I feel like you lived up to this. In life, your quest to acquire knowledge and to read even after you were no longer able to go to school because they couldn't get a bus to you, you enriched your life and the lives of those around you. By joining the military, you, one of the many, allowed yourself to be a general tool, and a tool in the quest for freedom, so that future generations can continue to progress in your shadow. I wish I could have read your prophetic quotes on a Hollywood in one of the films you undoubtedly would have made. But nonetheless, your words have inspired me and will forever have changed my life. You were brilliant, Virgil. But more than that, you were a hero. A hero greater than any Superman or Batman could hope to be. But more than that, Virgil, to me, you are my hero. I will never forget what you did. Your death has ensured that I will get to live in a world that is free. I will never grow up in a world of hate, a world of death. But not only will I get to grow up in this great place, my young siblings will as well. And so will all of the rest of the people of this great nation. Your death, in turn, has saved my life. And I know I could never thank you enough for that. When I was in Perrier a couple days ago, I hugged the statue of you. And if I could magically go back in time to meet you, I think that's just what I'd do. I would hug you and tell you how much I love you, how much your brother loves you, and how thankful I am for your sacrifice. I hope someday to meet you in heaven so that I can tell you all of this in person. Until then, just know that you will never be forgotten. Thank you.